What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Voice Your Thoughts. Wanted to talk to you about something that's kind of deep, something that hopefully none of y'all ever have to go through. And for those of you that have gone through it, you may understand what I'm feeling, how I'm feeling, and maybe it'll help some of those out there who may end up going through it or know somebody that is. I want to talk to you about growing up without parents, or really adulting without parents as well. I'll be honest, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 10 years old, March 24th, 1999. My mother, her and her boyfriend at the time decided they wanted to do some hiking up in the woods, go enjoy the outdoors, really. And my mom, she came up to me, she said, "Hey, did you want to come with us?" And just before that, a friend of mine invited me to the Boys and Girls Club. So I was just like, "No, Mom, I want to go to the Boys and Girls Club. I think I'd rather do that." She said, "Okay." Gave me a kiss. She said goodbye. She left. My sister, who is about 6, 7 years older than me, depending on the time of the year, she was at work, so she would have been 16. She was working at a fast food place. So my mom leaves. My sister's at work. I go to the Boys and Girls Club, spend a day out there. I want to say I get home probably like around 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, sitting there hanging out with my sister. And we get a phone call that we'll never forget. Phone call that changed our lives forever. We were told that my mom and her boyfriend had gotten into an accident, um, and that it was a fatal accident. She was on her way home from being out in the hills with her boyfriend, and one thing led to another. They crashed off an embankment, and yeah, that was it. It was very, very tough. Like I said, I was 10 years old. Wasn't quite sure how to really react. All I know is I lost my mom and didn't really know what to do. Our dads weren't really in our lives at the time, so it wasn't like we can just call our father and say, "Hey, come pick us up," or, come console us or whatnot. It was none of that. It was really just me and my sister and our mom. Um, and when she passed, it was tough. Our grandma lived fairly close, so she came and helped out to try to take care of us. And then eventually my uncle, who was my mom's older brother, he came, picked us up, and took on the responsibility of taking care of my sister and myself. It only lasted a couple of years for my sister. She moved out when she was 18, started her life, and ended up going to the military. For me, um, my uncle was really kind of like the father figure in my life. So for some time, he pretty much took care of me as if I was a son, but it wasn't quite the same. It was kind of weird, being used to having your mom your whole life, and then she just kind of ripped away. I know some of the hardest parts of that was, going to school and holidays. And, I remember going to school, and I would say it's Valentine's Day, right? And everybody's making these Valentine's Day cards for their mom and putting these little notes together. And I had nobody to make a card for. It was tough. It was really, really tough. Um, my uncle, he tried his best to step in and take care of us. I did end up seeing my dad one time. I want to say maybe when I was like 11. Um, he had came to visit one time. It's crazy how my father came to visit, but not, didn't come to try to take on the responsibility to be a dad. But, that's life. So it was just me and my uncle. After a while, my sister had left. And like I said, he took on the responsibility to take care of me. And when I was 14, he had a heart attack. We were sitting there on the couch watching TV, and he fell out and had a heart attack right in front of me. I really didn't know what was going on, what to do. Like I said, I was 14. I might have been 13, just getting ready to turn 14, but had no idea what to do. Luckily, a friend of his had just stopped by, like literally right as it was happening, maybe like a minute after, and, tried to revive him, call the ambulance, and yeah, he didn't make it. So at that point, I'm 14 years old. My mom's passed away. The only person I have that was a father figure in my life has passed away. And it's just me. Uh, my grandma, once again, wasn't too far away. She came and, did what she could to take care of me. Eventually, a cousin of mine, who's my older cousin, he's about a good 15 years older than me. He came and kind of took over the situation for a little bit, lived in the house. But, I love my cousin. So, so grateful that he stepped in and did that. But he was really more of a cousin than anything. Just kind of to really just be like a guardian in a way, without really being a guardian, just taking over the responsibility of the house that I lived in. But from that point forward, it was really just me learning how to grow up and learning how to be a young man by myself. That happened for about a good 2 years, maybe a year and a half. I'll say about a year and a half. And as I mentioned before, my sister, she's 6 years older than me. So at that point, she had been in the military for a few years. I want to say she was 21 at the time. And she said, "You know what, Rob? You're coming to live with me." So, sis, shout out to you if you're watching this, being 21 years old, coming to take care of your teenage brother. I love you and I thank you. So at that point forward, it was me and my sister. We had moved across the United States to Connecticut and changed high schools. So I was going into 10th grade. Once again, it was tough. Like I said, it was just myself and her figuring life out. She was a young adult, very, very young adult. So for her to raise a teenager is probably not the best thing for a 21-year-old to do, but she really stepped up and really did the best she could. But at the same time, not having a mom or a dad, it was so hard. It was. And, to really look back and think about it and kind of wonder how I was able to get through that and how she was able to do it and get through it, I really couldn't tell you how. I don't know. Honestly, I remember it, but I don't remember dealing with it. All I can think of is maybe just it was because we compartmentalized, some of those things where we just had to learn how to move on, learn how to adapt really quick. And it's a tough life to live. It is, but it really did make us to who we are. I got to give a shout out to my sister. She ended up graduating with her master's in nursing. She was in the military for a long time. She's a nurse, just living a great life. She has a family of her own. She's married, has 2 kids, and I'm super proud of her. Like, I couldn't tell you how proud I am of her. She's doing very, very well in life. So as I continued to progress in life, I went to college, and some of the struggles that I really encountered growing up without parents were probably the toughest things is everybody always asking, right? Holidays and, when friends would go back to their family for holidays, I would just stay at school, or, if I had an apartment after a while, I would just stay home at my apartment or try to link up with kids that were going to stay and not go back home. Whenever I did go to friends' houses and, maybe go to their place for Thanksgiving, or never Christmas, but like a Thanksgiving type of thing, their parents or their friends and would always ask, "Oh, well, where's your family at? And where's your parents? What are they doing this holiday?" And it was always just awkward. It was very awkward to have to tell them like, "Oh, well, unfortunately they're no longer here." Just kind of try to keep it a little brief, because you don't want to make them feel bad for asking, because at the end of the day, they don't know any better, right? I think it's just something that's just a casual ask, casual conversation. So I would always just tell them, yeah, they're no longer here, unfortunately. And they would understand. It would kind of get quiet and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," type of thing. And I'm like, "No, it's cool. We just move on." So I would remember being a kid or being a teenager or even a young adult. And, we often find it easy to take for granted some of the people that are in our life. And I saw it quite often with other kids and, other friends, and with the way they would talk to their parents and how they'd respond to them, or how they would always say, "Oh, my mom is so annoying," or "My dad is so annoying." They're always calling me, always messaging me. And that was something that kind of always bothered me. Of course, I would keep it to myself. I didn't want to rub anybody the wrong way, or project my frustrations on somebody just because of how they may have, interacted with their family. But, you start to look at things a lot differently. You see people that, have their parents around, or have uncles, grandparents, brothers, sisters, and you see the way they treat them sometimes, and it it really makes you like, why do you treat them that way? Why do you do that? It's it sucks. It sucks to see from the outside looking in. So for those of you that are out there that have your parents, please, I really encourage you, love them, care for them. They may not always say the right things, and they may not always, or you may not always want to talk to them, but every now and then give them a call, shoot them a text message. You know, it's like I said, spending holidays alone, and forgive me, this is a tough conversation to have, but spending holidays alone were tough. Meeting people's parents were tough, as I started to get into relationships, and I've only been in a few like relationships where I've actually met people's parents, but when you meet somebody's parents, they always want to ask, "Oh, what do your parents do?" or "Where are your parents?" Or it's just like when you go to friends' houses and stuff like that for holidays, they always want to ask questions, and like I said, it's understandable. They want to learn who you are. They want to get to know you a little bit, and it's a hard conversation to have, to tell them that your parents aren't here. And you have some people that are bold, some people that are really bold, and they'll ask, "Well, what happened to them? How did it happen?" And some people you'll tell, some people you won't. You'll tell maybe your close friends, or you'll tell, the person that you're in a relationship with. So eventually, I tried to get in contact with my dad, after my uncle had passed away. This is kind of backtracking a little bit, but after my uncle passed away, I went to live with my sister, and, we tried to get in contact with my dad. And that was when I was 17. And it's crazy how life works, right? So we didn't really have any connection with anybody on that side of the family, just because we had been so disconnected for so long after my mom had passed away. And even then, like, my dad really wasn't in my life. So when I was 17, we finally did get in contact with somebody on that side of the family. We were able to reach out. I don't know if it was through email or a phone number. Somehow we finally got. And it turned out he had just passed away. He literally had just passed away a few days before we got in contact with him. So that was tough. Being 17 years old, your mom passed away when you were 10. The father figure that you had in your life passed away when you were 14. And then your actual father passed away when you were 17. So I remember going to his funeral, and I was just so numb, because it's like, here we go again. And even though I didn't see my dad in years and years, it had probably been 6 or 7 years at that time since I've seen him. And even before that, it had been maybe 3 or 4 since I've seen him before that. It's like, you don't really know the person, but at the same time, you still know that that's your father. You still know that's your dad. You still kind of see yourself when you see them. We kind of had some similar features, right? So it was tough, but like I said, like, you get through it, you move on. So I'm 35 now. Haven't had parents in, wow, about 20 years, maybe longer, since my mom passed away. I have a child of my own. My son, he's 12. And that kind of takes you to a whole nother level of not having parents, because now you've got to raise this young child. And as you raise this child, he has two sides of his family. So his mom has both of her parents and her grandparents. And mind you, my grandparents have since passed away as well. So his mom has, like I said, both of her parents and grandparents, and he gets to experience life with them. He gets to go spend time with them. He gets to go spend time with his grandparents. And I love that for him. I truly do. But there was a point in time as he started to develop and ask questions, and he asked me like, "Hey, Dad, where's your mom, or where's your dad?" And he asked these questions, and you can't really explain that. Well, you can, but it's hard to really explain that to them when they're young. But as they get older, you kind of fill them in and explain to them, what happened. And I don't think I've ever really told him, my son, how they passed away, but he just knows that they passed away. And I do want to say it's probably made me into a better father, although I don't know what kind of father I would have been if my grandparents or my parents or grandparents were still here. But I do know it's made me want to really, really strive to be the best dad I can be for him. Not only that, really set up my life to where he has something. I've really, really had to work hard and go above and beyond, because one of the things without having parents is you don't have nothing to fall back on. I often saw a lot of friends when they got out of school or when they fell in hard times, they would call their mom or call their dad and ask them for some money, or they would say, "Hey, I'm going to go back and live with my parents for a little bit until I get back on my feet." And, when you don't have parents, you don't have that. You're forced to figure it all out yourself. You're forced to grow up a lot quicker than you probably should. And, it's tough, but it really makes you a strong person. It really does. I would say that there's some things in my life that, that happen, and you see things happen to friends and how emotional they may get about it, or how certain things may bother them that won't really bother you. It's easy for you to get over things. It's easy for you to get through things, because when you've been through so much, at a certain point, you're just kind of like, well, I've been there, done that. I've cried. I've had pain. What's this going to do to me? You move on. That, I would say that made me I would say it's not great for relationships. I will say that, because it's not a great mindset to have for relationships. And, you often find yourself in a relationship, and when things don't go your way, or things are going bad and they're not working out, it's easier for you to just be like, all right, well, bye, see you later, move on again. I'm used to it. And that took some soul searching to get through, because you don't want to be cold. You don't want to be cut and dry, and if anybody out there that know me, I'm not a cold, cut and dry person. I'm a very friendly, easygoing, try to be lively when I'm out. Kind of a homebody now, but when I was out, I was pretty lively, so I wasn't really a cut and dry person. But when you get pushed to a point, or when things start to go bad, it's almost like it automatically clicks. It's almost like you're just like, oh, well, there it is. All right, I'm out. I'm done. And that's no way to live your life. It really is. And some people are just naturally like that without going through anything. So I pray for you, and I pray for those that are like that because of things that they've been through. It's hard. It really is tough to sit back and reflect and say, you know what? I'm not just going to give up on things. I'm not just going to quit and walk away, because there's more to life. That's not how relationships or life is built. You have to really try and do the best you can, Um, Another thing that still gets me to this day is one thing I really, really long for is just conversations. You know, I don't know if those of you that do have parents out there actually talk to your parents. And if you do, that's amazing. I truly love that for you. And if you don't, I really encourage you, please do. Please do talk to them. Ask them questions. You know, I would love to know. I would love to know, what life was like in the 70s for my parents, what life was like in the 80s. You know, give me some life lessons. Talk me through some things. When I have my son, teach me how to change a diaper. Just things you had to learn on your own. When my son has questions and wants to learn something or is going through certain emotions, and me being a first-time parent, not necessarily knowing how to respond, I would love to be able to have that phone call and say, hey, Dad, or hey, Mom, what do I do? um, but like I said, it's tough, but it's not the end of the world. It really does encourage me to be a better dad. Um, you know, I love going outside and playing catch with my son, teaching him new things, teaching him how to play basketball, talking to him about sports. It's something that I was never able to do with my father. I was never able to go out back and play catch, never taught how to throw a football from him, and I was very athletic. I played a lot of sports growing up, but all those things that I did were all either self-taught or, just learned from watching others. And I will say this, for me at least, having the ability to adapt has truly, truly helped me. And I think it's because of what I went through and how I was forced to adapt through certain situations and certain things that now I'm able to really, really adapt, no matter what the situation or environment is, even who I'm talking to, having conversations. I often find myself almost changing the way I talk and how I act when I'm talking to somebody. It's really weird, I know, but I work in sales as well too, so I think that just kind of helps. It helps build rapport, build relationships, right? But yeah, it's not fun. And like I said, I don't wish out to anybody. So those of you that do have your parents, please talk to them. Go have a conversation, sit down, have a glass of wine, or go have a cup of coffee and ask them questions. Talk to them about their past, send them a text message, give them a phone call, tell them you love them. When they call you or text you, respond. It's so easy to do. We often try to brush it off and say, oh, we'll talk to them later, but you never know when there might not be a later. And for those of you that are parents, I truly encourage you to love on your children. I know it's tough out here and it's easy to hand your kid the iPad or the phone or tell them to go play the video game, but there's so many things that we can do to build relationships with our kids, with our family. Teach your son how to throw the ball, go kick the ball with them, play dolls with your daughter, just find what they're into. And I encourage you to enjoy those moments. Because as we get older, we often see that those moments don't last forever. The closer I get to 40, the more I really start to see people, either no longer being in my life, whether it be friends, coworkers, associates. You start to see people passing away. You start to get friends that are older, and you see some of the things that they go through and some of the things that they deal with and the life struggles and troubles that they have. And it really puts things in perspective for you. Life's short. As long as that day may feel, or as long as those weeks or months may feel, if it's leading up to something, it flies right by. It truly does. I mean, those of you that have had to, go through COVID, like, well, I guess we all probably went through COVID, right? Because probably all at the age that we had to deal with it. But that was already, what, 4 years ago? Here we are in 2024. That's come and gone. Life comes at you fast. It truly does. Ferris Bueller quote: "Life comes at you fast. If you don't stop and take a look around every now and then, it might pass you by." Right? It's Stop and take a look around. Enjoy the moment. Love on your friends, love on your family, because you never know when it's over. You truly don't. John Lennon quote for you: "Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans." Yeah, I know. Hope y'all having a great one. Those of you that have gone through this kind of thing, let me know how you've gotten through it. I'd love to have you on another episode. We can talk through it. Those of you that may be going through it right now, please ask questions, shoot some comments below. If you want to hop on a video with me and talk it out, let's talk it out. It's tough. It's not easy. It's really not. But you can do it. I did it. It's possible. Hope y'all have a blessed one. Easy.